This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On this episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Ben from The Wandering Ben, and we're going to be talking about A Case of Distrust. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gamer Weekly. Sorry for not having a new episode. I apologize. I was wanting to take a leisurely break. I know, that was wrong of me to do, and I promise that I will not take a break ever again. With me today is Ben from The Wandering Ben. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
So Ben is currently working on a game called A Case of Distrust, and from what I've seen, you've gotten a lot of attention from it, especially from things like Game Informer, where they were saying that you were the best indie game of E3, which I feel like it's
one of 10. I think it was a list. I think I was in the list. And my game starts with the letter A, so it's really easy for me to be at top of lists. It's fantastic.
Hey, it still works. So for those that don't know what A Case of Distrust is, what is the game about?
A Case of Distrust is a narrative mystery from 1924 San Francisco. You play as a female private investigator, Phyllis Malone, finding clues and taking statements from suspects. You'll travel through various locations throughout the city. And like any good noir mystery, the case isn't really all it seems from the beginning. And by discovering who is lying to you and why, you'll uncover deeper layers of a much larger plot.
It sounds very sinister.
It is a little. I mean, it's a case of distrust. You're not supposed to trust anyone. That's the idea.
I felt like when I finished the E3 demo that you sent me, there was a lot that you did not want to tell of anything. Like when I got done, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I want to play more of it. I want to know what else is supposed to happen in this game. So,
I mean, that's a good feeling, right? I'm glad you didn't walk away from it and you're like, that was fine. I don't want any more of this.
I will say it's definitely an interesting E3 demo because I feel like E3 is mainly explosions and, well, this has the Unreal 4 engine and stuff. And this game is completely different than anything else that I felt like was showcased at E3 because it's a much slower paced game and it's a more artistic kind of look to it. So to get the attention that you got, I felt like I thought was really awesome because it shows that a lot of people are more interested in like an actual good gaming experience too. So how did you get people to get attention for a game that isn't, I guess, like a more common look at E3 games?
Well, I don't know. We kind of took out the first person shooting, big blowy up level and went with instead of like a narrative mystery for the demo. That stuff's definitely there. We were talking about Doom before the show. I feel like there'll be a lot of comparisons to that. I think why did it get attention? That's interesting. I think people wanted something away from that part of the show, that was slightly quieter and slightly different. I think it also appeals to a different type of gamer, maybe like an older type of gamer. I mean, it's not a mature game. There are no boobies in the game. But I do think that the writing, I wrote it kind of in the style of a 1920s hard-boiled novel. And, that's not going to appeal to the same people that necessarily that like big, huge explosions or whatever, at least not at the same time. I mean, I also like big, huge explosions. There's nothing wrong with them. But I think, especially at the Indiecade booth, people were hungry for a different type of game. And that's kind of why I left traditional AAA gaming, was to branch out and do something different that isn't being done, or maybe that can't be done in that scene because of the budgets that they're working with and stuff, and try to make something that maybe is more exploring people and personalities and not so much saving the world.
Because I feel like the style that you are working on is something I feel like is growing a lot. There's a lot of, the I hate saying it, but the walking simulator games where it seems like it's a game of quote unquote nothing, but even though there's a lot more going on, stuff like I'm gonna butcher how to say this. I think it's called like Abzu.
Oh, Abzu, yeah, the
Yeah,
swimming simulator. No,
yeah.
I love all those games. Those are fantastic.
I
They're bringing narrative in games in like a way that hasn't really been focused on before.
and see, because I really enjoyed it too, and I haven't finished Abzu yet, but I've liked the game. I think it's the same people that made Journey, right? I hope I'm not
It's
wrong.
the art director from the people that made Journey. I think he left and then did his own thing, and that thing is Abzu.
Because I feel like, especially with games like Gone Home and Firewatch, it's more of they're shorter experiences, but they are games that I have felt have stuck with me more than something that was, say, like the you can put 1,000 hours into this game, which I'm so done with. Like I don't want to put 1,000 hours to a game. I just want to finish it and enjoy it, and then that's it. Like that's that's like my main thing now with games.
Right.
So
I think there are different experiences for different types of games. Like I always go back to Rocket League. I mean, after I'm done work every day, I'll put on a podcast, I'll grab a controller, and I'll play for like a half hour. And I will keep going and going back to it. But I do find that in story games, I appreciate it when they're smaller because I feel like I like finishing stuff in a few sittings and then moving on. I like to compare it more to a TV season or something rather than this massive, exploratory open RPG. Like I feel like I play less of those these days.
So, for A Case of Distrust, what were some of like the research that you did to do this game?
Man, there was a lot. I really, so first of all, beyond this game, I just really like the 1920s in general. There's, so many themes that sort of relate back to our time period in there. And I've always kind of wanted to explore that era. So there's stuff like the prohibition of alcohol that relates a lot to, our current prohibition of marijuana. There's the emancipation movement that women finally got the vote and they could smoke and drink in public and that was okay. But even though they were legally equal, they weren't socially equal. And that's still something that 100 years later is totally a thing. There's the glitz of the age, the jazz of the age, but then the low down, the gangsters, the bootlegging. So it's so rich in content that I honestly have liked researching it. Like I took an online course a few years ago before I even started making this game. I just wanted to learn more about it. And that sort of spun into, okay, well, what can I do here? What can I do in this space? And at the time, I was reading a lot of hard-boiled novels that take place in that era because, again, I was into it. And I thought that their pulpy style, like something like a Raymond Chandler or a Dashiell Hammett novel, fits a video game really, really well. When I was thinking about what to create, though, I didn't just want to create another noir game. I kind of wanted to tilt it on its head a little bit. I think you were asking a bit before about what brought it to people's attention. And I think part of it is that it's kind of like the games but it's a little bit different. And some of that is, as an example, the main character is a woman, which is very unexpected for that time period. But it's something that I really wanted to tackle in order to make the theme of feminism and emancipation, to really put it in the forefront and to make people understand that this isn't just a standard, noir just for the sake of style. It takes place in the 20s, but it is a historical piece. And I'm trying to bring a lot of those themes back to today.
So this is kind of off topic, but do you just like groan really loud when somebody says they're gonna have a Gatsby party?
No, no, I like it. Although I haven't been invited to a Gatsby party. You think somebody would invite me? Maybe I don't have enough friends that like to get into costume. No, I think, but that's what's cool about the 20s, right? Is that there are so many different aspects of it. You can go into the grungy sort of gangsterism of the time, or you can go to the glitzy era, and then there's places where those things mix. I mean, speakeasies and jazz clubs and things like that. You'd get people from all different walks of life crossing paths in these areas. because something that everybody did, drinking alcohol, was prohibited. And so there's just so many themes that you could play around with in that, and I found it so super interesting.
I've never been to a Gatsby party where the host like died. Like where's the theme? Like
Right. Next time you should bring a revolver and just make that happen.
we got to start a lot of drama and just build it up, and then finally everyone's like, "Man, that party got weird." I mean, it was awesome. Got kind of weird at the end, but still probably the most memorable party I've ever been to.
Right, exactly. Yeah, totally.
So,
Just point at the body on the lawn and be like, "This is great, right?"
totally sticking to the theme. I mean, it's a Gatsby party.
Right.
We do not condone murder here at Gamer Weekly.
Yeah, maybe you don't. I do. You go. I think you should murder all of the people that you want to murder.
There you go. That's some great words to live by.
Yeah.
We go from a break and now we're at murder. I mean, here we are, guys. So, is the minimal style of the game inspired by like 20s art as well, or is that drawn from something else?
No, here's what's funny is that originally I have really old concept art now that was inspired by Art Deco and sort of the style of the 20s. And then I played this fantastic game called 80 Days that totally uses that style and is a narrative game. And I thought, well, crap, I can't do this now. It would look exactly like that. So I went and researched. I really like it when games take inspiration from stuff outside of games and sort of bring broader popular culture closer to gamers in a different way. I mean, I'm talking in circles here, but my example for this is my own art style is inspired by this guy named Saul Bass, who's a graphic designer in the 50s and 60s and did a lot of work with movie posters and with credit sequences and stuff like that. And you'll see influences today, even in the gaming space. If you look at a lot of Ollie Moss's work, it is clearly inspired by Saul Bass. And that was a guy that I just saw a lot of his animations and a lot of his still posters and stuff and thought, oh my God, this would be a great game. And it's not exactly that style anymore. Like, it's evolved to sort of fit the theme and the tones of the game, but that's where it started. And I think you can still clearly see the influences of that.
I feel like at this point we should just start making up stuff about what the game is about and just really confuse everybody.
Right. Yeah. Well, you already know there's a first-person shooter level. There's also a level where it's an MMO and you're running around and you need to make a guild.
Right, and then there's that part in the E3 demo where you it's like a 3D platformer and you got to click all the puzzle pieces to uncover like who the murderer is.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's Super Mario Mysteries.
And then you have to do some microtransactions where you have to pay $100 in order to buy the rest of the game.
Right. Well, or you could, play it for half an hour, kind of every day, and then we'll, push notification you when you're ready to play again, and then you could just play that for 6 years, and then you get to the ending.
That is true gaming right there. That's when people ask me like, "What do you like about games?" I point to that, and I'm like, "This is it." Waiting.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't going to be that, but I saw all these talks at GDC and stuff that said that was the way of the future. So that's what I'm going with now.
Just take off the A and just Case of Distrust. It's like Game of War, Clash of Clans.
Right.
So, it's a very interesting way that you have gotten to, I feel like, this point, because you were talking before how you worked for AAA game developers. So how was that story? Like, how did you get to the point to where you are? Like, how did you start in game development and how did you get to where you are now?
How did I start? Wow. I started as an intern at EA Mobile when EA Mobile was still a thing. They might still be a thing in like Holland or something, but I was at the Montreal studio. And then from that, I sort of bounced around to different mobile studios, which was a really interesting space back then. It was right when the iPhone was first coming out. And so it felt like this new age, new cool thing, but it also wasn't the second coming that people thought it was going to be, and very quickly turned into Angry Birds clones. And so I thought, okay, what if I get out of this space for a while and see how I like AAA? And it turned out I really liked AAA. I just liked working on the games that I liked playing. So from there, I bounced to Silicon Knights, which was a studio in St. Catharines in Ontario, which is kind of close to where I'm from. And then I went to BioWare after that and worked on Dragon Age Inquisition. And after that, I went to Visceral Games and worked on Battlefield Hardline. But kind of in the last few years of working in AAA, I realized something similar maybe to what I was realizing with mobile gaming originally, which was I like making these games and I think they're really interesting. But when I go home, I'm playing walking simulators, or I'm playing point and click adventures, or I'm playing, narrative adventure game like Choose Your Own Adventures or something. These are the games that I really like playing, and this is kind of the indie space is what's evolving the games scene moving forward. And I realized that really I want to be a part of that, and so I decided to jump out of AAA. And then we didn't talk about this, but I traveled the world for a year. I went to Southeast Asia, and most of this game was made in Southeast Asia in like random countries. And then I came back to the U.S. and am finishing it up now.
So
there's my whole story. You can probably commit credit fraud right now. Anybody who's listening to this. And I've already told you to murder as many people as you want, so I'm not a good person. You don't have to feel bad about it.
So you were the guy that made the darker timelines for Dragon Age, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I have a friend who is obsessed with Dragon Age, and she has beaten Dragon Age Inquisition 5 times.
Wow. Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, so if there's anything that you could ever walk away with, know that I have a friend who is extremely obsessed with that game and that whole series. So you did good. I just want to let you know.
That's always fun to hear, especially when that was the most fun of AAA for me, was seeing people play the game or hearing people's stories about it. In anything that you do, I mean, in any game design whatsoever, when you see people play your game and they're having a good time, it's super fun. I think that's why most people do this.
How do you feel about the fan fiction behind Dragon Age?
The fan fiction behind, I don't know if I know too much. I haven't delved into this deep and dark world. What is the fan fiction of Dragon Age?
I don't know. It's interesting. Let's just go with that.
All right.
Are you familiar with the term of shipping?
No.
It's so basically you are saying that one character is totally in love with the other character, and usually it's very what's homoerotic?
Okay.
So I don't know. I just don't know if you've heard anything about anything of Dragon Age, because I feel like there's a very strong Tumblr following to Dragon Age, and there's a lot of shipping. I mean, I guess you can just ship the characters yourself in the game, because you can choose to pretty much do whatever you want and whoever you want. So
right, exactly. I feel like that fan fiction maybe is redundant, because especially in Inquisition, you could almost do anything or one that you wanted.
Which, I mean, right there is that's what makes a game good.
Right, exactly. So A Case of Distrust will have 7 sex mini games. You'll have to mash on the space bar really fast, and then eventually you'll win.
And that's that part you were talking about before. That's going to be in VR, and everyone's going to be really confused about what this game really is until they actually check it out, and they're going to be like, "Oh, this is what it is." I mean,
yeah, they're actually going to be really disappointed. Is really the thing. It's great.
Most of this episode is going to be me laughing, and everyone's going to be like, "This guy's laugh is horrible." I'm like, "Well, I do what I can." So I have a friend who loves hearing my laugh, and like, you should just laugh continuously through the episode. So if anything, I have created fan service for a friend of mine.
There
So
you go. Forward them the episode, and then they can play it while finishing Dragon Age the eighth time.
for the eighth time, yes. Oh man, I can never get past a game like one time. So getting it past like five, that's unbelievable in my
That's
eyes.
dedication. That's really good. I haven't beaten that game 5 times, so good on her.
So I guess the last thing to really ask you is, what does this game mean to you? And for anybody out there that wants to make games, what is your advice to them?
Oh wow. Okay. Well, this game to me is it's the first thing I've done outside of a game team. I'm mostly making this on my own. I have a friend that I met at BioWare actually, who's doing the audio for this game. But otherwise, I'm doing the writing, I'm doing the visuals, I'm doing the programming, I'm doing the game design, all me. And so it's very personal in a way that maybe should have been more expected than it was, but I just got back from showing it at IndieCade at E3, and I didn't realize how terrified I'd be showing this game. If I was showing Hardline, for example, and somebody said, "Oh, I don't like the animations of it," I'd be like, "Okay, that's fine. I didn't work on the animations." Whereas for this, I did. I did kind of everything in the game, so I really hope that people like it, and it seems like they did. But that was the first time showing it publicly, so I was extremely nervous. On the flip side, now that people are liking it, and like you said, there have been a few articles written about it, it feels so good. I mean, I came back, feeling like Tom Cruise in Top Gun or something. It was exhilarating.
You were in the
Um,
danger zone.
right, exactly. Aren't I always in the danger zone?
I mean, who doesn't live in the danger zone these days?
I feel like you could title this podcast "The Danger Zone" based on what we've been talking about.
VR edition.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh. Yeah, please do a little more research on what the game's about because it's not totally that. It's not a VR first-person shooter or anything.
Maybe.
In terms of people getting into the industry, I think the best thing to do is make games. Really just keep making games because there's two things that you get when making games. A, you get something for your portfolio. Like you get a portfolio piece that I don't think any game company today is going to hire a programmer or an artist who hasn't made a game asset before. It's vital. You have to have something to show them. But also, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that while it's fun, making games is very challenging. And a lot of people don't want to conflate work and their own personal fun time. And I've seen it a lot, especially in college. In college, I ran a game development club. And I would see a lot of people who came in with a lot of passion. And once they realized how much work it was, they just didn't want to do it anymore. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, all of these people have jobs now and are doing very hard work and are doing a very good thing for society. But they just didn't want to confuse their free time with their work time. They realized that gaming was more of a passion or a hobby and less of a career choice. And so I think when you start making games, you kind of realize what side of that line that you fall on. Is this something that I really want to do professionally? Or am I good just playing games and reading about them and listening to Justin's fantastic Gamer Weekly podcast that you should all subscribe to?
I didn't tell him to say that, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll be expecting the check in the mail.
Once I actually make any money off of this, I will definitely cut you a part of it or buy the game. I'll probably do both. So
Great.
yeah, no, I kind of get that too, because I actually try to become a radio DJ in the St. Louis area, which is a more daunting task than I thought it was going to be. I had an internship and quickly realized that the reason I liked it was I liked doing my own thing, and so that's why I'm here doing this, because it's something that I can do myself. And if nobody listens to it, well, I've made it, and I at least can go down in history saying I at least tried it. But it just seemed like everybody was really jaded in the whole radio industry, and I'm like, I don't really want to do this anymore now. It's kind of weird.
Man. Podcasts are the future.
Well, now it's vodcast, so I'm in the past now. Like I'm
Vodcast? Is that really a thing? Whoa, I've
y-
never even heard of this.
yeah, it's vodcast is basically just watching people talk to each other instead of just listening to them.
But
So
then how can I play Rocket League while listening to a podcast? That's ridiculous, Justin.
that's what I said too. My brother was like, "You need to record what you're doing." I'm like, "What I'm doing isn't really that interesting." I mean, like if that person wants, if you want to, if we could scrap this whole thing now and just be like, "All right, let's just record video of it and just watch two guys just stare at each other the whole time."
Yeah, I kind of have a face for radio, so I like this.
I do too, so don't worry. Or do I? Who knows? No one's seen. Actually, it's pretty easy to find me. So what am I talking about?
Right? Yeah, the internet's a thing.
The internet isn't thing. So, Ben, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been a very it's been interesting. So I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And
Yeah.
anybody out there that wants to listen to the show, I am on just about everything. So if you have a podcast app that you prefer, I am on it. And if I'm not on it, please message me because I need to be on it then apparently because I have been living under a rock. So please follow and subscribe. I hate to beg for things, but I guess I'm not really begging. I'm just asking. If you could, that'd be great. If you don't, hey, I get it. It's whatever. So thank you to the Making of Games subreddit for letting me put my show onto their subreddit. You guys are awesome. And I probably wouldn't have any listens if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you. And any other gaming subreddit that I put it on as well. Thank you for that as well. And Ben, again, thank you so much for listening to the show and being on the show. And yeah, who knows? Our goal is to get 10,000 listens on this episode, guys. Let's go. We can do this, right, Ben? We can do
10,000. Let's go. Yeah, totally. Just again, mention that it's a vodcast in VR, and you should be fine.
I'm gonna put that in the tags, and people are gonna be really upset with me.
Yeah, I feel like that's what people are going to be upset about at A Case of Distrust after this episode. It'll be great. I'm excited for it.
If I actually got 10,000 listens on a show, I'd probably start crying. Because I've gotten one that was past 1,000, and I was like, oh man, here we go. And that hasn't happened since. But if I got 10,000, I would probably call my mom and be like, look at this. This is insane. So, but I never expect that. So, yeah. So I'm terrible at outros. What should we do?
I'm doing jazz hands right now, but I feel like it doesn't work when it's not a vodcast, so I don't really know.
Everybody close your eyes and imagine two guys in different parts of the country jazz handing. There you go. And we'll just slowly fade out to thank you for listening.